What difficult truths, the sooner you accept them, the better your life will be. It's important to accept that some people simply won't like you, and sometimes it won't even be for a discernible reason. This isn't a reflection of your worth or who you are as a person. It's just a reality of life. People are complex, with their own biases, preferences, and experiences that shape their feelings. Trying to please everyone is a losing battle, and it can drain your energy and self-esteem. Instead, focus on being true to yourself and building meaningful relationships with those who appreciate you for who you are. Even if you try your hardest to be good to someone, they might still see you as the bad guy in their life. There will always be someone who is more attractive, smarter, younger, or wealthier than you. That's just the way life is. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on being the best version of yourself. Live in a way that you won't look back with regret. Be kind, help others when you can, and don't expect anything in return. What really matters is the goodness in your heart, not what others have or what you don't. Not every friendship will stand the test of time. People change, life happens, and sometimes even the strongest bonds fade away. It's a natural part of growing and moving through life. While it can be sad, it's also an opportunity to appreciate the memories you shared and to be open to new connections in the future. Just because you know you're right doesn't mean others will agree with you, and sometimes they might even push back. My wife deals with this a lot. She came up with a plan that could make the company more money, but the owner and co-workers didn't support it, even though the numbers clearly showed it would work. It can be frustrating, but sometimes people just won't be convinced, no matter how much proof you have. Some minds are set, and no amount of data will change that. As an adult, you'll find that the only person you can fully rely on is yourself. Others will be there to support you, but everyone has their own limits and challenges. It's important to appreciate the help you get, but also understand that in the end, you have to take responsibility for your own life. This can be tough to accept, but it's part of becoming independent. You can only help those who truly want to be helped. If someone isn't ready to change or put in the work, there's little you can do to make a difference. Accepting this can save you from a lot of frustration. It also allows you to direct your energy toward those who value and appreciate your support. Life isn't fair, and that's something we all have to face eventually. There will be times when things don't go the way we expect or deserve. It happens to everyone, and it's just part of life's unpredictability. Accepting this truth can help you navigate the ups and downs with a bit more resilience. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. Jean-Luc Picard. You can do everything right and still not win. This doesn't mean you're weak or that you failed. It's just the way life can be sometimes. There are factors beyond our control, and even our best efforts don't always lead to success. Understanding this can help you accept setbacks without blaming yourself too harshly. Don't count on others when it comes to things that really matter. No one is going to guide you step by step to success. And even if someone did, you wouldn't learn how to stand on your own. True success comes from your own efforts and learning how to navigate challenges by yourself. It's about building the skills and resilience to keep going even when things get tough. I used to feel really jealous of my friends who had boyfriends that seemed to solve all their problems. Whether it was fixing a car, handling a leaky faucet, or even dealing with taxes. It looked so easy for them. But none of those relationships lasted more than a few years. The truth is, no one wants to feel like they're parenting their partner. Now, those same friends are struggling to figure out those things on their own. It's a reminder that relying too much on someone else can leave you unprepared for life's challenges. Life isn't fair, and accepting that can make it easier to deal with. Good deeds often go unnoticed, but if you're doing them just for recognition, you're missing the point. Do good because it's the right thing to do, not because you expect something in return. Also, trying to explain something to someone who doesn't want to listen is usually pointless. You'll just end up feeling frustrated and wasting your time. Sometimes, it's better to let it go and focus on what you can control. You can't fully trust your employer. They might have their own interests at heart, which may not always align with yours. While it's important to do your job well, always remember that you need to look out for yourself first. Trusting too much could leave you vulnerable. Death is something that comes for all of us sooner or later. It's a stark reminder to cherish the time we have with the people we love. Make the most of every moment, and let those close to you know how much they mean to you. Life is fragile, so hold your loved ones close while you can. No one is going to come and rescue you, so you've got to handle things on your own. It might seem tough, but relying on yourself builds strength and independence. When you take control of your life, you learn how capable you really are. It's all up to you. Going to the DMV is something you can't avoid. It's one of those tasks that everyone has to deal with, whether they like it or not. It might be inconvenient, and the wait can be frustrating, but it's a part of life's responsibilities. Instead of dreading it, just accept it as something that needs to get done. Once it's over, you won't have to think about it again for a while. You can't undo what's already happened, but the future is still in your hands. What's done is done, and while you can't go back, you have the power to shape what comes next. Every moment is a chance to make a new choice, to take a different path, or to learn from past mistakes. It's up to you to decide how you'll move forward and make the best of what's ahead. Not everything is a lesson. Sometimes you just fail, as Dwight Schrute wisely said. It's true, failure doesn't always come with a hidden meaning or lesson to learn. Sometimes, despite your best efforts and doing everything right, things still don't work out. Accepting this can be tough, but it's a crucial part of growth. The key is not to let failure stop you from trying again. Resilience is about picking yourself up, dusting off, and giving it another shot, even when it feels like the odds are against you. The people who are truly good for you are the ones who bring happiness, joy, and a sense of acceptance into your life. They care for you, share fun moments, and support you even when you have differences. On the other hand, those who aren't good for you often leave you feeling anxious, sad, or judged. They might not notice when you're struggling, or worse, they might not care. Genuine friends won't let you suffer in silence. They'll reach out and offer support. It's important to distance yourself from those who bring negative emotions and surround yourself with people who lift you up and care about your well-being. I appreciate this comment. Your words really resonated. Thanks. Disagree. If you intentionally hide your internal state from others, getting mad at them for not noticing you're in pain will just lose you a lot of good people who aren't very perceptive. Happiness and satisfaction come from within. They are shaped by what you choose to value and how you measure your own contentment. No one else, and no material thing, can make you happy unless you decide to let it. This is why we see wealthy individuals who are still unhappy despite having everything they could ever want. It's also why some people with seemingly perfect lives still feel unfulfilled, always longing for something more. True happiness isn't about what you have. It's about how you perceive your life and what you choose to appreciate. It's about finding peace and contentment with what's already in your heart, not constantly chasing after what's out of reach. I actually feel like a lot of rich people are unhappy. Happy people are content, and contented people don't tend to get rich. You're about as happy as you make your mind to be. Kinda love it, kinda hate it. The year I finally achieved the level of success I dreamed of was the worst of my life for no apparent reason. I wish I was a more balanced person. If someone really wanted to do something, they would find a way to do it. Whether it's showing up, making an effort, or reaching out, actions speak louder than words. When people care, they take the initiative without needing to be pushed or reminded. It's a simple truth that can save you a lot of time and heartache. If they wanted to be there for you or make an effort, they would. It's important to recognize this and not waste energy on those who don't prioritize you. This is too far down the line. Also, if it feels personal, take it personally. Benefit of the doubt only goes so far. In general, yes, but not always. Many mental disorders involve desperately wanting to do something, but being unable to make yourself take the steps to do so. ADHD in particular can make you avoid desired activities as much as undesired ones. Depression makes you unable to summon the will to do the things. Anxiety can make you too scared to do things. Want doesn't come into play. This is the bad defense of someone uncomfortable with looking in the mirror, and a universal bad phrase. You can never know why someone doesn't do something, or why they either can't or feel they can't. My problems are my own, and the outside world doesn't really care about them. It's a tough truth, but most people are too busy with their own lives to worry about mine. This doesn't mean that my struggles don't matter. It just means that I have to be the one to deal with them. Understanding this can help me become more self-reliant and less dependent on others for support. In the end, it's up to me to find solutions and keep moving forward. It might sound silly, but a lyric from a Weezer song really struck me when I was 19. One more tear falling down your face doesn't mean that much to the world. For a long time, I thought people should treat me better because of the tough childhood I went through. But the truth is, most people don't really notice or can't do anything about it. It's not that they don't care. Some people genuinely do. But even those who care can't fix what's broken inside you. That's something only you can work on. Therapy can be a place to start untangling the pain and learning to heal step by step. It's about taking responsibility for your own healing, even when it feels unfair. Don't waste your time chasing after other people's approval. The more you try to please everyone, the more you lose sight of who you really are. Instead, focus on being true to yourself. Embrace your uniqueness and let go of the need to be validated by others. The right people will appreciate you for who you are, not for who you're trying to be. In the end, being authentic is what will bring you the most peace and happiness. Your expanded approach captures the complexity of balancing our natural instincts with the need to stay true to ourselves. It acknowledges the importance of cooperation and seeking approval as part of our evolutionary survival, while also emphasizing the importance of maintaining our individuality. The key takeaway is the idea of finding a middle ground where we can respect others' opinions and work together, without sacrificing our own identity. This nuanced perspective highlights the challenge of balancing social harmony with personal authenticity, offering a thoughtful approach to navigating relationships and social dynamics. I often remind myself that the only person I have to live with my entire life is myself. It's a powerful way to put things into perspective. While relationships and connections with others are important, at the end of the day, you are the one who has to face your own choices and live with your own thoughts. This means that staying true to who you are is crucial, because no one else will be there every step of the way. It's about making peace with yourself and ensuring that the life you're living aligns with your values and desires. People have taken the idea of not caring what others think a bit too far. While it's generally solid advice to be true to yourself, there are times when it's important to consider others' opinions. It might seem like conflicting advice, but it's true. In certain situations, caring about what others think can help you grow, build stronger relationships, or navigate social dynamics more effectively. The key is to know when to listen to others and when to follow your own path. It's about finding a balance between being confident in who you are and being open to constructive feedback from those you trust. When you're young, it might seem easy to turn your back on society or reject the norms and expectations placed on you. It feels like a small, even rebellious, choice. But as the years go by, the world outside can become a lonely place. Isolation, whether intentional or not, can weigh heavily on you as time passes. The connections you thought were unnecessary or unimportant can start to feel more vital. Being a part of a community, even in small ways, brings a sense of belonging and support that's hard to replace. It's important to remember that while independence is valuable, staying connected with others can make the journey through life much more fulfilling. I preach a lot about how Reddit is a weird subset of very independent, borderline antisocial personalities. Most people cannot and should not attempt to solo all the content this life has to offer. We are social creatures and need other people on a consistent basis to make the most of it. There are so many dumb things you can do when you're young and feel invincible, but this may have some of the worst consequences. Happiness isn't something we feel all the time, and that's perfectly normal. Life has its ups and downs, and expecting to be happy all the time isn't realistic. Emotions come and go, and it's okay to have moments where you don't feel joyful. What matters is finding peace with the ebb and flow of life and appreciating happiness when it comes. Understanding this can help you be more patient with yourself during the tougher times, knowing that they're just a part of the natural rhythm of life. Neutrality is, in fact, a very good baseline state to exist in. Then you just try to maximize the deviations up and minimize the deviations down. If someone truly wants to spend time with you, they will make the effort. No excuses or busy schedules will stand in the way if you're a priority in their life. Actions speak louder than words, and when people care, they find the time. It's important to recognize this and not waste energy chasing after those who don't make the effort. Surround yourself with people who value your company and show it through their actions. If a potential romantic partner is truly interested in getting to know you, they will make it a priority. You won't hear excuses about being too busy, needing to go to the gym, or having to work late. If someone is consistently making excuses, it's a sign that they're just not that into you. When something or someone is important to a person, they find a way to prioritize it. It's better to accept this reality early on and not waste time on someone who isn't giving you the attention you deserve. Instead, focus on those who genuinely want to be part of your life. If a romantic interest isn't showing you the same level of attention and respect that you're giving them, it's a sign that they may not care about or want you in the way you hope. It's easy to make excuses for their behavior, but doing so can lead to a lot of pain down the road. Being honest with yourself about the situation can save you from heartache. If the feelings and effort aren't mutual, it's better to recognize that sooner rather than later, so you can protect your heart and seek someone who values you as much as you value them. I'm not a fan of the narrative that encourages a lack of empathy. There's a big difference between someone who struggles to build a relationship because they have personal issues to work through and someone who is simply using you or doesn't care. It's easy to fall into the trap of vilifying those who don't meet our expectations, but that's not fair or productive. People have their own battles, and sometimes they just aren't in a place to give what we need. It's important to recognize when a relationship isn't fulfilling and to move on if necessary, but that doesn't mean the other person is bad or uncaring. Understanding this allows us to part ways with compassion and without bitterness. It's important to remember that neighbors and co-workers don't need to know everything about your life. They aren't necessarily your friends, and it's okay to keep some boundaries. Similarly, not all of your friends are the ones you truly need. Some relationships may not serve you as well as you think. Silence, too, can speak volumes. No response is still a response, and it often says more than words could. Understand that things you care about will eventually fade away or die. This reality can be hard to accept, but it's a part of life. People will do what they want, regardless of your wishes or expectations. How you fit into their actions is often open to interpretation and might not be within your control. Taking care of your physical and mental health should be a priority. It's one of the few things you have significant control over, and maintaining it can help you navigate life's challenges. And finally, you won't always get the chance to say goodbye. Your last moments with someone may not happen the way you envisioned or hoped for. Cherish the time you have with others, because you never know when those moments will end. It's frustrating that the safest route is to keep neighbours and co-workers at a distance, even though they're the people we interact with the most. It feels counterintuitive. These are the folks we see every day, share spaces with, and maybe even exchange pleasantries with. But experience often teaches us that trusting them too much can backfire. Even if your neighbours seem cool, putting too much faith in them can lead to disappointment or worse. It's a tough reality to accept, but sometimes it's better to keep a bit of a guard up, even with those who are part of your daily life. Trusting people is a gamble, and when it comes to those closest in proximity, it's often safer not to roll the dice. I'm not sure I fully agree with the idea of keeping neighbours and co-workers at a distance. Some of my closest friendships actually started with people I met through work or who lived next door. While it's true that you don't need to become best friends with everyone you see regularly, it doesn't mean you should close yourself off to the possibility of building meaningful relationships. Sometimes the people you're forced to be around by circumstances can turn out to be genuine friends. It's about finding a balance, being cautious enough to protect yourself, but open enough to let real connections develop when they're there. I've never quite understood why there's an expectation to interact with neighbours regularly. I've lived in 5 different cities across 3 countries, and I've never felt the need to engage with people in my building or neighbourhood beyond exchanging misdelivered mail. For me, the idea of forming close bonds with neighbours just never clicked. The only times I've formed meaningful connections in my living situation were in college dorms, where shared classes, clubs, and interests naturally brought people together. Another exception was when I intentionally moved next to friends in a new city where the bond was already established before becoming neighbours. It's not that I'm against neighbourly interactions, but I've always found it more natural to form friendships based on shared interests rather than just proximity. Avoid getting into arguments on the internet. It's rarely worth your time or energy, and it's unlikely that anyone involved will change their mind. Online debates often turn into shouting matches where people are more interested in winning than in understanding each other. Instead of engaging in endless back and forths, it's often better to focus on things that bring you more peace and satisfaction. Save your energy for discussions that matter and where mutual respect is more likely. You're wrong! For those of you who grinded hard in your 20s, how did it pay off? When I was young, I didn't have much money. I worked really hard, sacrificing a lot along the way to build a better life for myself. Now, after all those years of grinding, I'm no longer young, but I'm also not poor anymore. It's strange, though. I have the stability I always wanted, but sometimes I wonder if all the sacrifice was worth the time I can never get back. I'm really thankful that by my mid-30s, I was able to turn things around and still have some youth left to enjoy it. I was born into poverty. My dad worked a low-paying job trying to support 6 kids. I remember one Christmas when all we got was second-hand stuffed animals, oranges, and some basics like socks. I dropped out of high school and worked all kinds of odd jobs until I was 25, barely making enough to cover rent and cheap food. I had nothing saved and was constantly worried about the next bill. At 26, a professor friend told me I had a shot at getting into a master's program if I could score above the 85th percentile on the GRE. I spent 6 months studying hard, passed the test, and got accepted. 4 years later, I graduated with a master's degree and landed a dream job making $70,000 a year. Now, at 39, I'm earning about $130,000. My only debt is a low-interest loan on a minivan, thanks to getting married and having kids. I'm beyond grateful that a school took a chance on a high school dropout and that a job opportunity came my way. Now I'm focused on helping others the way I was helped. Every year, I write countless reference letters for people looking to further their education or land a job. In my free time, I mentor others in my community, helping them break the cycle of poverty through a mix of social assistance and hard work. It feels good to give back and help others climb out like I did. The startup I poured everything into didn't work out, and I never made the millions I dreamed of. To make things worse, I ended up divorced because I didn't put enough energy into my relationship. I was so focused on the hustle that I lost sight of what really mattered. I'm not saying the hustle is bad, but it's important to spread your efforts across different areas of your life. It's easy to get tunnel vision when chasing success, but neglecting other parts of your life can lead to regrets. In the end, balance is key. Make sure you're not sacrificing your relationships and well-being for a dream that might not come true. Now that I'm in my mid-30s, with a family and a kid, I look back and realize that the only real regret I have is not going on more adventures in my 20s. I spent so much time focusing on responsibilities and trying to get ahead that I missed out on the chance to explore the world and create unforgettable memories. Those years are gone now, and while I'm happy with where I am, I do wish I had taken more time to experience life in a different way when I had the freedom to do so. It's something I think about often, and it's a reminder to seize the moment when you can. I put everything I had into earning my PhD, working tirelessly to reach that goal. But just a month after defending my dissertation, the stress triggered a brutal autoimmune disease that now completely controls my life. It's a harsh reality. After all that hard work, I'm left dealing with a condition that overshadows everything. Looking back, I wish I had taken more time to enjoy my 20s instead of pushing myself to the limit. The pursuit of academic success came at a cost I never expected, and now I'm living with the consequences. If I could do it over, I'd find a better balance between working hard and actually living life. I worked hard and managed to save up enough money for a down payment on a house just before the housing market boom. The timing couldn't have been better. I bought in right before prices skyrocketed. That early grind really paid off in a big way, setting me up with a solid investment that's only grown in value. Looking back, I'm glad I made the decision to save and invest when I did, because it gave me a big financial advantage down the road. All that hard work in my 20s has led to more freedom and financial stability now. I have the security of knowing I can handle unexpected expenses without stress, and I have the flexibility to make choices that align with what I really want in life. Whether it's traveling, investing in new opportunities, or just enjoying time with loved ones, I don't feel as tied down by financial worries. It's a good feeling to have worked hard and now enjoy the benefits of that effort. I have some regrets, especially from a social standpoint. Right after graduating college, I jumped straight into full-time work without taking any breaks. Meanwhile, my friends took time off to travel and experience life in a different way. Now that we're all in our mid-30s with stable careers, spouses, and kids, I realize I missed out on those adventures and carefree experiences. While I'm happy with where I am now, there's a part of me that wishes I had taken some time to explore the world and enjoy those youthful moments before settling down. It's a part of life that I can't go back and recapture. Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. Things haven't turned out as well as I hoped. The pandemic hit me hard, devastating my finances and leaving me struggling to get back on my feet. On top of that, years of hard work have taken a toll on my body, and now I find it difficult to keep up in my line of work. The physical strain is catching up with me, making it harder to stay in the game. It's frustrating to see the efforts of my 20s unravel like this, and it's a tough reality to face. Well, at least now you have a solid income, and you're not stuck living at your parents' house anymore. You've gained financial independence, which is something many people struggle to achieve. Having your own place and being able to support yourself is a big deal, and it's a testament to the hard work you put in during your 20s. It's not always perfect, but having that stability is a significant accomplishment. I worked hard in my 20s, but I wasn't great at saving. Now, in my 40s, I'm doing okay. Not rich, but not poor either. I own a house and have a decent retirement plan in place, which gives me some peace of mind. I've seen people who earned way more than I did in their 20s, but now they're struggling, even homeless. It's a reminder that it all comes down to moderation. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how you manage what you have. Finding that balance between enjoying life and planning for the future has made all the difference. I started grinding hard even before I hit my 20s. By the time Jerry Garcia passed away in '95, I was just 20 years old, and I had already saved up 90Ks from selling grilled cheese on Grateful Dead tours. I took that money and invested in real estate in Northern California. Nearly 30 years later, I've flipped enough properties to set myself up financially, which means I only take on jobs that I really enjoy. It's been a unique journey, but putting in the work early on allowed me to create a life where I have the freedom to do what I love. It didn't work out the way I hoped. I built up significant wealth through my 20s and 30s, and by my early 40s I was doing really well. But then, out of nowhere, my entire industry collapsed. Tech took a nosedive, and suddenly, everything I'd worked for was gone. I spent years sowing, putting in the hard work and sacrifice, expecting to finally start reaping the rewards. But just when it was supposed to pay off, the rug was pulled out from under me. Now I find myself on my knees, struggling to figure out what's next. It's a harsh reminder that even the best laid plans can fall apart. I have a huge regret. I let my mental health take a back seat while I was grinding hard. Now, I'm paying the price for it. All those years of pushing myself, ignoring the signs, and not taking care of my mind have caught up with me. It's a tough reality to face because, while I may have achieved some things, the cost to my well-being has been steep. Looking back, I wish I had balanced my drive with better self-care, because now I'm dealing with the consequences every day. It worked out great for me. I spent my 20s studying intensely, earning a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and eventually a PhD. After that, I went into management consulting and built a solid foundation that has given me a lot of flexibility in life and relative financial freedom. There's real satisfaction in knowing that I earned everything I have today through education and hard work. Education coupled with relentless effort is incredibly powerful. But I can't ignore the role that a supportive family and spouse played in my journey. Having people who believed in me made a huge difference. I'm also aware of how fortunate I was to have the opportunity to focus on school, something not everyone has. And I have to acknowledge that luck played a part too. While I believe we create some of our own luck, taking lots of chances definitely helped me be in the right place at the right time. All those shots on goal added up, and I'm grateful for how things turned out. I'm exhausted. One thing people don't often tell you is that while you're laser focused on your career, the people you love are getting older and sometimes sicker. I was so wrapped up in my work that I didn't even notice my family members' health declining until it was too late. Now, as I'm approaching my 30s, I already regret not spending more time with my family. I wish I had prioritized them over my career more often. Looking back, I realize that those moments with loved ones are irreplaceable, and no career success can make up for missing out on them. I'm 34, single, and I have no debts. I've got accident and health insurance, a sizable investment in the stock market, and 2 time deposits. My savings are enough to cover about 20 months of my average income, which gives me a lot of peace of mind. As a freelancer, I don't have a stable monthly salary, but I'm no longer stressed when a client disappears without a word like I used to be 10 years ago. I've built up enough financial security to weather those bumps. Living in Southeast Asia also helps. A single US dollar can get me a cheap, but filling home-cooked meal, so my cost of living is relatively low. Overall, the hard work I put in during my 20s has paid off, giving me the freedom and stability to live comfortably, even without a traditional job. I've achieved a lot on paper: 2 PhDs, a JD, and an MA, and I hold a powerful position in my state government. But despite all that, I'm miserable. I'm drowning in school debt, constantly battling anxiety, and I find myself drinking more than I should to cope. My life is consumed by work, commuting, and taking care of my kids. There's no time left for a personal life, friends, or anything that isn't related to my job or family responsibilities. It's a tough reality to face, but this is where I've ended up after years of pushing myself to achieve more. On the outside, it might look like I have it all, but inside, it's a different story. There's so much wisdom packed into this comment, and I can't help but wish I had some of that insight for myself. It's amazing how life experiences shape our understanding of what really matters. Reading this makes me reflect on my own journey and the lessons I've learned, or maybe still need to learn. Sometimes it takes hearing someone else's story to put things into perspective and realize what's truly important. I started as a combat officer in the army, fought in wars, and then transitioned into a corporate job when I got out. I learned the ropes quickly and climbed the ladder, landing what I thought was my dream job within 10 years. But the dream job turned out to be a nightmare. I wasted a lot of my success on coke and wild partying. Everything changed when I had a kid. I left the rat race, moved closer to family, and shifted my priorities. Now my wife and I both make six figures pretty effortlessly, but by the standards I grew up with, that's just barely middle class. It wasn't an easy journey, and honestly, I'm not sure it was worth it. Our society is messed up right now. We're in desperate need of change. And it's not because my lifestyle isn't comfortable. It's because there are so many people out there working way harder than I ever did, for so much less. That's what's truly broken. I had all the right opportunities handed to me. I made plenty of mistakes along the way, and yet I'm still doing okay. That shouldn't be the case in a fair system. It's a sign that something is deeply wrong. I skipped the typical college experience and went straight to work at 17. By working hard, I climbed my way up to management and got married at 23. When I was 27, the owner of my company told me he saw me as a future CEO and even offered to pay half of my college tuition. I went back to school and earned my undergraduate degree in a little over 5 years, all while working 50, 60 hours a week and adopting a little girl, becoming a father in the process. Eventually, I took the leap and cashed in my retirement savings during COVID to buy a small business. Now I'm in my 4th year and we've grown 400%. I'm already planning to sell the business within the next 10 years and retire. Along the way, I've lived fully, traveled, partied, and maintained a strong marriage with the woman I married at 23. We have an amazing daughter, and though I've worked my brains out, I don't regret any of it. Every step, every decision has led me to a life that I'm proud of and fulfilled by. It's worked out really well for me. In my 20s, I put in 80 or 100-hour weeks, taking on jobs that I was way underqualified for. I spent my free time studying, catching up quickly on the skills I needed to succeed. Now at 36, with 2 kids and a wife who can stay at home, I'm making over $400K a year. But the grind doesn't stop. I'm focused on shifting my active income into passive income. I've gone heavy into real estate, owning multiple rental properties across the US. I'm tired of climbing the corporate ladder and want more freedom and security. One important thing I've learned is that how you grind in your 20s really matters. Put in your 9 to 5, but those extra 40 hours should be dedicated to your self-development or progress. If you're working 80 hours just for a W-2 paycheck, you're missing the point. Use that time to build something for yourself, whether it's skills, investments, or a side business. That's what sets you up for long-term success. I burned out hard, and by my early 30s, I had to hit the reset button on my life. Looking back, it feels like all that effort was for nothing. I have very few good memories to show for it. While others were enjoying movies, TV shows, music, sports, and a social life, I was grinding away, missing out on all of it. Now I realize I sacrificed too much for too little in return. The things I gave up can't be regained, and it's a heavy price to pay for what turned out to be an empty pursuit. I put in long hours and made a lot of sacrifices, but in the end, it was worth it. All that effort led to financial stability, career growth, and the independence I always wanted. It wasn't easy, but hard work truly does pay off. Now I can look back and see the results of all that grinding, and it feels good to know that my dedication brought me to this point. I've got a six-figure job, and I get to work from home all the time. I never have to go into the office. It's not in the high 100s, but I'm really happy with where I'm at financially. The flexibility of working from home gives me a great work-life balance, and being comfortable with my income makes it even better. I'm content with the situation I've built for myself, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm completely burned out. Years of hard work and pushing myself have taken their toll, and I'm feeling the effects more than ever. It's tough to keep going when the exhaustion has built up like this, and it makes me question if all the effort was worth it. I've reached a point where the burnout overshadows any sense of achievement, and it's a constant struggle just to keep moving forward. I retired at 50, and now I'm happily married and traveling the world with my spouse. It's the life we always dreamed of, exploring new places and enjoying each other's company without the stress of work. We're making the most of this time, creating memories together in every corner of the globe. It feels incredibly rewarding to have worked hard and now be able to fully enjoy the freedom and adventure that comes with retirement. I spent my late teens and all of my 20s working for my dad's maintenance company. Just as I started, we took on a nationwide contract, providing 24-hour reactive and planned maintenance for a large chain across the UK as their main contractor. Pros: the money was good, not just from my wages, but from the company's earnings, which allowed me to invest in multiple rental properties and a few other businesses. My mortgage is paid off without any issues. And while I'm not wealthy, money isn't a stress factor in my life. I've managed to build a decent passive income, which now gives me the freedom to pick and choose the work I want to do. Cons: but I missed out on so much in life. Gigs, parties, hanging out with friends, dinners with family, you name it, I missed it. Even when I was physically there, I was always glued to my phone, checking emails and messages. The stress was through the roof. The clients we worked for didn't care about work-life balance. They wanted me, not my employees. And they wanted me now. If a branch couldn't open at 8 a.m. as scheduled, it was me they screamed at. I worked multiple 24-hour shifts on site to get things up and running, only to be criticized because someone found dirt in a back-of-house sink. I have a lot to be thankful for because of the work, but there's a part of me that regrets choosing it over actually enjoying life. The sacrifices were huge, and while the financial rewards are nice, I can't help but wonder what I missed out on by not being more present in the moments that really mattered. What does it really mean for something to pay off? I've got a nice apartment, a car, and very little debt. I'm still working hard, but not as intensely as I used to. My life feels pretty normal, nothing extraordinary, but comfortable. I guess that's the payoff in a way: stability, a decent living situation, and the ability to work without burning out. It's not flashy, but it's a good life. Sometimes just having a steady, normal existence is a success in itself. In short, it didn't really pay off the way I hoped. My family couldn't afford to help with school, and I was raised to believe that debt was something to avoid at all costs. So I enlisted in the Navy's nuclear program, hoping it would set me up for a stable future. After leaving the service, I started my own small business with just $2,500 and a vending machine. I spent the next decade growing the business, and avoiding all the usual temptations. No partying, no frivolous spending. By 2021, I had finally crossed the threshold of a six-figure take-home pay and was ready to use my VA home loan. But every time I tried to buy a house, I lost out to cash offers that waived inspections. Meanwhile, some of my friends, who seemed to just skate through life without much direction, now own homes that they bought for $75,000. Houses that would now cost me $400,000 to buy from them. They didn't follow the correct, responsible path like I did, but somehow they ended up with more assets. It's frustrating to see that doing things the right way didn't get me as far as I thought it would. While I've worked hard and made some gains, it feels like the system is rigged in a way that punishes caution and rewards risk-taking. Sometimes it makes me question whether all the sacrifices were worth it. What's something you do that you don't tell anyone about? I often ignore phone calls and door knocking because I'm just not in the mood for people. One thing I don't usually share with anyone is that I keep a happy moments journal. Whenever something small but positive happens, like someone giving me a compliment, witnessing a random act of kindness, or simply enjoying a beautiful sunset, I write it down. It's a way for me to stay connected to the good things in life, especially on days that feel overwhelming. Flipping through those pages reminds me that even in difficult times, there's always something to be grateful for. I keep it to myself because it feels like a private, sacred space, a place where I can hold on to those little moments that bring me joy without needing to explain them to anyone else. I create and read erotic AI chats. It's something I do for fun and as a way to explore my imagination. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, something that feels both personal and a little bit taboo, which is why I keep it to myself. I know it might sound odd to some, but it's just one of those things that I enjoy in my own time, without feeling the need to share it with others. I sing songs to my dog, songs I've made up just for her. They're silly little tunes about how much I love her, her funny habits, or just random things we do together. It's my way of showing her affection, and honestly, it makes both of us happy. I don't share this with others because it feels like a special bond we share, something that's just between us. Sometimes I'll eat a donut over the kitchen sink in the dark while everyone else is sleeping. Every year, I quietly send money to my old school so they can buy 6 prom tickets for students who couldn't otherwise afford to go. The only person who knows about this is the school administrator I email each year. It's important to me that everyone gets a chance to enjoy that special night, no matter their financial situation. Besides that, I also make anonymous donations to a domestic violence shelter in my area. These acts of kindness are something I keep to myself because I believe in helping others without seeking recognition. Peeing in the shower. I spend a lot of time answering Ask Reddit questions. As a boring middle-aged widower who's had the same group of friends for the past 20 years, no one really asks for my opinion anymore. So coming here and interacting with strangers is a nice change. It's fun to see what others think, share my own thoughts, and engage in conversations I wouldn't normally have in my everyday life. It's a way to stay connected with the world, even if it's just through a screen. I often find myself talking to myself, seeking advice or working through problems. Honestly, it's sometimes the best therapy I can get. There's something about voicing my thoughts out loud that helps me sort through my emotions and find clarity. It might seem strange to others, but those conversations with myself have gotten me through some tough times. It's like having a trusted friend who's always there, and it helps me stay grounded. Make comments on Reddit under the name Dick Nipples. I have a habit of filling up my cart with items on sites like Target.com, Sephora.com, and other e-commerce stores, only to close the tab without buying anything. It's surprisingly satisfying to fake shop, picking out everything I might want without actually spending a dime. It's almost as much fun as real shopping, but without the guilt or the hit to my wallet. It's a little ritual that lets me indulge in the thrill of shopping without any of the financial consequences. I have no idea what I'm doing at work. When I'm working as a fireman/paramedic, I sometimes purposely enter people's info incorrectly into the computer so they don't get a bill. Nowadays, everything is billed, and in some cases, it's just ridiculous. I believe that people who really need our help shouldn't have to pay for it, especially when they're in a tough spot. It's my small way of looking out for them, even if it's a bit under the radar. If only I could figure out how to offset that by triple billing the folks who abuse the system, calling 911 for minor things like a case of the sniffles or just wanting a free ride to get their meds. Now that would be something. But until then, I'll keep doing what I can to help those who really need it. There are times when I get so sad that I think about killing myself. It's not something that happens all the time, and I know I'd never actually go through with it. My husband would be devastated and would blame himself. He'd never marry anyone else, and I don't want him to be alone forever. My cat would be upset, my family would be heartbroken, and my friends would miss me. Even though my depression tries to convince me that people would be better off without me, deep down, I know that's not true. People do love me, and that's why I never act on these thoughts. I also don't tell anyone in real life because I can't afford a grippy sock vacation. If I didn't have anyone who would care if I were gone, I don't think I'd still be alive. But don't worry. Like I said, I'd never actually do it, so no need to send Reddit cares. After work, I often sit in my car in silence for about 30 minutes to an hour before heading home. I usually tell everyone I'm off later than I actually am, so I can have some time to decompress and get myself in the right headspace. It's my way of unwinding from the day and putting on a happy face before I walk through the door. That quiet time alone helps me reset and makes it easier to be present for my family when I get home. So much nose-picking. I secretly love to dance in my room when no one's watching. It's my little escape where I can let loose and just be myself without worrying about what anyone else thinks. I put on my favorite music and just move, letting go of all the stress and tension. It's a moment of pure joy that I keep all to myself, and it always lifts my spirits. I have a whole playlist of guilty pleasure songs that I only play when no one's around. It's full of tracks that I wouldn't necessarily share with others, but they make me feel good. When I'm alone, I blast them and sing along without a care in the world. It's my little secret, and I love every minute of it. No judgment, right? I'm involved in the testing and development of adult toys, something I don't usually share with others. It's a unique and interesting line of work that combines creativity, technology, and a bit of taboo. While it might raise some eyebrows, I find it fascinating to be part of a process that helps people explore their own pleasure and well-being. It's a job that's both challenging and rewarding, but definitely not something I talk about openly. Over the past year, I reached a point where I was seriously preparing to end my life. One day, I pulled over on a country road completely overwhelmed and in tears. I had my gun with me, something I carried for work at the time, and I got out of the car, feeling like I was ready to walk into a nearby field and end it all. It was the closest I've ever come to actually doing it. Standing there, far from home and family, I felt a strange kind of peace at the thought. But then, a small but clear voice in my head kept repeating, "You cannot leave and abandon your son. He loves you, he needs you." That voice, and the promise I made to myself to be the father I always wanted and needed, kept me from going through with it. It gave me the strength to get back in the car and drive home. Since that day, I've been in therapy and developed a self-care routine that's helped me get back on track, but no one knows how close I came to the edge. Looking back, it's hard to believe I let myself get to that point, and it scares me how bad my mental health became. The past 2 years have been the hardest of my life, but I'm doing great now. It's a powerful reminder of how important it is to take care of yourself, even when everything feels impossible. So yeah, I guess I just needed to get that off my chest here. I masturbate, something that's pretty common, but it's not something I openly talk about. Even though I know it's a normal part of life for many people, it still feels like one of those private things that isn't easily brought up in conversation. It's just a part of my routine, but I keep it to myself because it's personal and doesn't really seem like something that needs to be shared with others. When I'm in the shower, I sing like I'm headlining at Coachella, belting out my favorite songs like I'm performing for a huge crowd. In my head, I'm a superstar, but in reality, my neighbors probably think it's more of a karaoke disaster. It's my little moment of fame, even if it's just between me, the water, and whoever might be unfortunate enough to hear it through the walls. But hey, it makes me happy, so I keep on singing. Sometimes I pretend I'm heading to work, but instead I sneak off to the movie theatre and hide out there. It's like my secret escape from the daily grind, a place where I can just relax, watch a film, and forget about everything else for a while. No one knows where I really am, and it's my little way of taking a break without anyone noticing. It feels like playing hooky, but it's also a much-needed breather from the routine. When I get really angry at myself, I sometimes hit myself. I don't plan to, it just happens in the moment. And afterward, I feel really sad and ashamed that I react this way. It's something I keep to myself because I'm afraid of being judged if anyone knew. It's hard to admit that I handle my emotions like this, but it's a part of me that I'm still trying to understand and control. I wish I didn't feel the need to hurt myself, but in those moments, it feels like I don't know how else to cope. I talk to my plushies and tell them all the real, usually negative feelings that I can't share with anyone else. They're like my silent confidants, always there to listen when I need to let out my frustrations, fears, or sadness. It's easier to open up to them because there's no judgment, just a soft, comforting presence. It might seem a little odd, but it helps me process those emotions that I keep bottled up around others. When I was a kid, I used to run in circles while daydreaming. It was my way of getting lost in my imagination. Now that I'm older, I've found a way to mask it by saying I'm going for a walk or walking the dog. It's still the same thing, really. Just an excuse to let my mind wander and escape into my thoughts. It's funny how some habits never really go away. They just evolve with time. Have conversations with ChatGPT. Every few weeks, I sneak off to a sushi buffet or some other all-you-can-eat spot, all by myself, and I don't tell anyone about it. I stuff my face like a pig while browsing Reddit on my phone, and afterward, I indulge in a long food coma nap. Nobody knows I do this except for my credit card company. I live in constant fear of being outed, but the ritual is just too satisfying to give up. Fun fact: I've been doing this since 2016, and over the years, I've noticed more and more solo diners doing the exact same thing, devouring their food while glued to their phones. It's like a secret club of solo eaters, and it's oddly comforting to see I'm not the only one enjoying this guilty pleasure. Sometimes I fantasize about leaving my wife and huge family without saying a word, just disappearing and living the rest of my life alone in the woods somewhere. The idea of complete solitude, away from all the responsibilities and noise, feels strangely appealing. It's not something I'd ever actually do, but in those moments, the thought of total escape is like a temporary refuge from the pressures of daily life. It's a secret I keep to myself, a daydream that helps me cope with the overwhelming demands of family life. I make up little songs about random things I'm doing or that are happening around me. Sometimes I sing them out loud, other times they stay in my mind, like a secret soundtrack to my day. It's just something that happens naturally, and it adds a bit of fun to even the most mundane moments. Whether it's about making coffee, cleaning up, or something silly I see, I turn it into a little tune that no one else knows about. Sometimes, when I'm interacting with people, I pretend they're dogs. It sounds strange, but it actually helps me feel more comfortable and relaxed around them, especially if they're not the easiest person to deal with. Imagining them as dogs makes it easier to feel more kindly toward them, even if they kind of suck. It's a little mental trick I use to get through social situations without getting too stressed out. I just love how all the stories here are either on September 3rd at 2:37 a.m, I went to a truck stop and murdered someone in the bathroom, or my homemade cookies aren't actually homemade. It's hilarious how the confessions swing from absolutely wild to something so harmless. It's like there's no middle ground, just the extremes of human experience, and I'm here for all of it. I still sleep with my stuffed animals sometimes. Even though I'm an adult, there's something comforting about having them nearby. It's like a little piece of childhood that I hold on to, especially on nights when I need a bit of extra comfort. I don't really talk about it because it feels a bit childish, but it's one of those small things that makes me feel safe and cozy. I have a whole other life in my head. Every night before I fall asleep, I escape into this other world I've created, filled with complex characters and detailed places. I imagine the buildings, the surroundings, and sometimes cast characters from movies or create entirely new ones with complete backstories. It's like my own personal universe that I get to build and explore. I know it's not real and I know it never will be, but I find joy in the world-building process. It gives my mind something to focus on, helping me escape from my anxieties. Creating this world calms me down and puts me to sleep every time. It's my own little mental retreat, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Sometimes I binge-watch cheesy reality TV shows. I know they're over the top and often ridiculous, but there's something oddly addictive about them. It's my guilty pleasure. I can't help but get sucked into the drama and the absurdity of it all. It's a way to unwind and just let my mind relax. Even if I wouldn't exactly brag about it to others, sometimes you just need a little mindless entertainment to take the edge off. I'm manic depressive, and I regularly switch between feeling successfully confident and sinking into debilitating depression. It's like living on a roller coaster, with extreme highs and lows. But oddly enough, I've learned to control it like a switch, adjusting my mood to fit my surroundings. When I need to be on, I can push through and project confidence, even if I'm struggling inside. It's a survival mechanism that helps me navigate life, but it's exhausting to keep up the act. No one really knows how hard it is to manage this constant fluctuation, and it's something I keep to myself. I pretend to care about the whole gender switches and trans community, but honestly, I don't. It doesn't affect my life in any meaningful way, and I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. What really gets under my skin is when people try to force their opinions on me or expect me to take a stance. I just decide to play nice and go along with it to avoid conflict, but deep down, I couldn't care less. I keep these feelings to myself because it's easier than getting into arguments or being judged for not being as passionate as others. My days are pretty routine. I wake up, shower, go to work, do my job, eat lunch, finish work, go home, eat dinner, maybe watch some TV and then go to sleep. And I go through all of it without really telling anyone about my day. It's just the same pattern day in and day out. I guess it's nothing special, but it's my life, and I keep it to myself. Sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions, but it's comfortable in its own way. Nice try, FBI, but you'll never find my collection of banned books. They're the ones that have a single swear word or dare to offer commentary on government rule. I keep them hidden away, a little stash of rebellious literature that I cherish. It's not just about the content. It's the principle of owning something that others have tried to suppress. It's my quiet act of defiance, and I'm not letting anyone take that away from me.